Rose is a very hardworking woman.
She is very intelligent.
She leads with integrity and humanity.
She is a very strong female leader.
She's a staunch researcher in malaria.
Very strict in following the procedure, the scientific procedure of research.
She made science so attractive.
It's a seasoned researcher, but she's also truly a mother.
C'est une personnalité très posée. She is very humble.
She is an emblem. She is an icon. She is a model of scientists, not only women scientists, but scientists as a whole.
Just simple words of encouragement from her or guidance from her has been so wonderful in my own career. If she asks me to jump, I'll just ask her how high I need to jump.
This is one of the most celebrated scientists in the world. But the more she grows in research and discovery, the more she knows that God is absolute.
I want to begin by thanking you because you have provided this platform for us to be able to honor our mother, our aunt, while she's alive. Because most of the time, the tendency is to make powerful, beautiful speeches when people are gone.
I was born in Shisong in Banso, boy, 1947. And at that time, my father was one of the first headmaster at Mancon Catholic School. And so sent my mother to Shisong to deliver me with the sisters because she had lost one child. And so, to be safe, as soon as she was pregnant, she went on to Shisong. And I was born there. And I keep remembering how my father tells me how he rode his bicycle, which was then like a Rolls Royce, to go to Shisong to see me and come back.
Mrs. Leke is my niece. And her mother was my elder sister, who, when she was getting married, took me as her baby bride. And she looked after me. She took me with her to Bamenda in Mancon. So when she got pregnant, her mother, the mother of my sister, and myself had to take her to Banso.
When I was a baby, not more a baby, from 2 to about 8 years, we lived in Sopo. That's where I went to school. And I remember this family there, Mrs. Wakai, I went to school with, Christy Wakai. We went to school together in Sopo, and all the gang family, Ambassador gang and all, they're all relatives, were all in Sopo.
We were children of Bafomban, who was the first headmaster of the Catholic school in Big Mancon, Bamenda, and also Catholic school in Tico.
From Sopo, my father was now sent to Tico as a headmaster again. So I schooled not only in Sopo, I also schooled in Tico. It's from Tico that I went now to Okoyong. In Mountfay, you hear of QRC, Queen of the Rosary College, Okoyong. I went in there in 1959. The school started in 1956.
So we grew in the Catholic school or the Catholic church, And she attended Queen of Roses QRC Okoyom, so it's a Catholic school.
She now went to school in Sopo and in Tiko for primary school.
I left primary school, they were going to standard 6. I passed the entrance from standard 5, so my father sent me to Okoyom. So I was 1 year, before I left my other mates there. And in Okoyom also, they were doing 6 years, but some of us, who were, I should say, smarter, were now moved to the next class. So I ended up doing 5 years. I went in 69 and I came out earlier.
We met up at CAST, Bambali, to do our higher school, and there we spent. I was there 2 years, and she was there barely 1 year. But in any case, we were both science students
for a while, and then went to CAST Bambili in 1966. We were the first science students. I have so many of them that I remember. We just lost one now, late Benedict Fultang, whose corpse is arriving this week here. But there's Dr. Benkum, who's not far from me, who was also a classmate, Dr. Christine B.
Dr. B. Christine, she's a pharmacist and proprietor of pharmacy The Stad. That is one of our classmates too, who came from Okoyom to join us.
And I were the 2 women who decided to join the science, first science students in CAST Bambili.
We were the first group of students to start the science department in Bambili, hoping that it was going to be transformed into a university.
And what I should tell you is, she and I had never done chemistry and physics, because in Okoyom we only did biology. So now we joined these students, and they were helpful. Professor Walimuna used to tell the story. One time, I think, they were having a ceremony for me in the faculty, and he said there were times that they were hoping that I would go and sleep because I was working so hard, and they were wondering what. Because we and they helped us. But we had never done chemistry and physics, but we were able to, catch up, maybe beat some of them.
My admiration for Professor Leke is the fact that we got to know that while at Okoyom, they did not study chemistry. And so when she came, she needed assistance from those of us who had done chemistry in our secondary school. And the amazing thing is that when it now came to writing the GCE advanced level, many of us who had done chemistry before had compensatory grades or failed. And Professor Leke passed with her A levels, bright A levels in chemistry.
What is remarkable about her is she was a science student. I was a science student, but I'd gone to a school that had facilities that they did not have. In the school that she went, for example, they didn't have a full lab for chemistry and physics, but she took those subjects at the higher school and did pass chemistry remarkably well, and that was an achievement all by itself. Now, in school, did we even begin to fathom what she might become in years to come? Of course, I had that feeling. I'd always had that feeling about her, that she would reach the heights of the profession, that she would achieve anything that she put her mind to. When she left cast. She went to the States and she went to St. Mary of the Woods in Indiana.
I was supposed to go to the U.S. 1 year in cast and then to the U.S., and that's what Professor Muna of later memory had done. He left us there a year and went on with the ASPA Authority. But we all wrote the ASPA. I like to tell this story because it just tells you then. We all wrote the African Scholastic Program for American universities. It used to be called ASPA. Today is the SAT, you know, but we wrote it all. Many of us who came wrote the exam. And I was the only girl who passed. And so many men passed that exam, so many of them. So for the interview then, we went for the interview. Now you won't believe I failed the interview. And then the men, they wanted, I think, 17 or so. So I failed the interview, all the men passed. And that must have been, the Americans didn't like that so much. I can say that because they dispatched somebody from the US who was coming here for something, who came, because the others had left then and gone because they passed. So I went back to cast Bambili. And who came to this country, I can never forget him, Mr. Muffley. He was working then at the State Department. And he was sent here, and he came right to cast Bambili to look for me. I had gone to visit my sick mother, and my late friend, Mrs. J.D. Zumafo, was looking for me. He told them I was coming. So I came and I saw him. He said they saw that I passed with all these men, and I didn't get the interview. I passed their written exam, and I didn't get the interview. So he came to look for me, dispatched. So he came, and he took me with him. And I remember we slept in the Fumban Palace. I'd never been there in those places. And then put me in the airplane. The next day, I'd never been on the plane. Put me in the airplane, and we came here to Yaoundé. And took me to the what was used to be the Ministry of Education now, which I think the Ministry of Health is there. Took me there. I remember those areas very well. And since I knew Mama Foncha well, I stayed with them. They asked me if I knew anybody. I said yes. So I stayed with them. And I went there to the ministry and had another interview or whatever it is. But they were decided that I was going to the US, so they brought me there.
My sister had just had the scholarship to go to the US. She was one of the very few girls in those days who had a scholarship from high school to go to the US.
I did my bachelor's, and they sent me to first of all, to a family, Mr. and Mrs. Rosen. It was like a homestay family in the US. And it was so good because at that time, when they gave you a scholarship to go study, do your first degree in the US, they first sent you to a family. Everybody went to a family for 6 weeks. So you get used to the American life, to the people, and so on. So I was then sent to Mr. and Mrs. Saul Rose in Highland Park, Illinois. And, others don't even know sometimes maybe where their parents, but they adopted me so much that our families have been together till this day. The Rosens passed on, but the children, she's my sister. I hear from her all the time. It was a very close family. I tried to pull away like the others, but they were just keeping with me. So that's why they've been to Cameroon. They came to Cameroon twice to see us here. So after that, then I went to my small Catholic school, St. Mary of the Woods College, Indiana, which was wonderful for me coming from a place like Cameroon to go into. It was an all-girls school. I think they chose that particularly. They chose it. I didn't, particularly since I said I was Catholic and coming from here. And it was so good there. I spent 4 years there. And I'm so pleased with those my 4 years in St. Mary of the Woods. It really opened me up, to kind of liberal arts, liberal education, whether I was in science, but... And because before that time, we used to be just, here we do our A-levels, we do those courses. In the beginning, I was wondering, why did they make me do philosophy? Why do they have me do, music? Why do they have me do? But then later on, I was so pleased that I had to take those classes. But then I stayed in the science area.
When she left CAST, she went to the States and she went to St. Mary of the Woods in Indiana. I had the good luck of visiting her there at St. Mary of the Woods in Indiana. She left from there and continued her education in Canada, where she did her graduate work and her doctorate work. I would even pause here to say I proudly would say I introduced her to her now husband of many, many, many years.
One day I had a friend of mine who incidentally was in Sase with me, but was not my classmate. He was 2 years younger than me in Sase. He came to visit me in Canada, in Montreal. And we were talking about our life after Sase. And he told me we were talking, and we talked about her, this lady who is my wife today. And this lady was related to him.
And whether I take credit for it or I take debit for it, I would say that over the years, I have gotten my my rewards, both from the husband and others, in terms of this matching up. If I had known it was going to be so good, I would have priced myself out of the market.
Because when I got her address, I actually made a trip to go to Chicago, where she was studying. And it was a Catholic college, Catholic university where she was. And when we got there, all receptions of girls was in a big hall, everybody together. So you could not even say anything. The Reverend sisters were passing up and down and so forth. So I just sat there chatting with her in that big hall. I would have loved to have something more intimate to talk about why I had taken the train, and the train took almost for 18 hours to get from Montreal to Chicago. So I just met her briefly, and then after that they said visiting time was over. So I went back and took the train to take a night train again back to Canada. And that is how it all began. When I wrote to her, she wrote to me, then we started calling each other and talking. And behold, we fell in love with each other. Now, the problem that I had now was that I did not know her parents, and she didn't know my parents either. So we had now to negotiate with our parents to get them to understand who we really were and, and that we intended to become married for life. So it took a while. We wrote to the parents and exchanged pictures and so forth. And very agreeably, both parents were very much in favor of our being together. And that, of course, facilitated our getting married on the 6th of June, 1970, in a church in Montreal, in Canada.
Then when I finished the master's, I got married to Professor Robert Leke, and we got married in Canada, and we came back here to Cameroon. He was an MD, I had my master's, and we were sent to Ebolova.
And after was transferring me to Ebolova as medical officer. I was in Ebolova and my wife was working in the laboratory. She did the master's in laboratory sciences.
So he was working there, and I went and took care of the laboratory and really brought in, at that time, techniques that were not there. It was just a laboratory that nothing was happening there. But I could establish, we could do a sickle cell test, because at that time nobody knew what was happening. I remember Dr. Bita, who was the director of health, had a sick child, and when I gave him those diagnoses at Bolova, he was so pleased. And I used to come get reagents from Yaoundé. So we spent a year in Bolova, Spent another year in Akonolinga.
So in 1972, I think, we left and went to Akonolinga and took over office as Chief Medical Officer. I was teaching also in IOS, in the School of Nursing, and my wife was teaching in IOS also. Then after 2 years, 1974, we came back to Yaoundé.
And when we came to Yaoundé for a year, we spent a year. What my husband was determined to do was to go and specialize. And I wanted to do my PhD. So we had done a year in Ebolova, a year in Akonolinga, came to Yaoundé, and he left. And I was still here for a year, but all the year I was here, I worked with the late Professor Kaptri to put up the blood bank. It was the first time we had a blood bank here. I set it up with late Professor Kaptri, started, so at least we can have blood transfusion. That's the one thing I did here. Then I left and joined my husband in Montreal. At that time, I had one child born in Canada, one child born in Akonolinga. With the two of them, we went back to Canada. My husband did his specialization for 4 years. I went to the University of Montreal, Université de Montréal, started out, and I kept saying I want to do malaria for my PhD. It was a long journey. I can't even start telling you. But I finally went and carried out research in malaria for my PhD.
I was the one who promoted her in-depth knowledge into science. Let me give you an example. In Canada, we had 2 children. She was to defend her PhD thesis in 1 year. I decided that in order to give her time to do her PhD thesis, to finish her PhD, I would take the children and bring them home and stay here in Cameroon before she comes, so that she can have enough time to do her PhD. And since then, I have always been at the back pushing her into science. And then, of course, she went deep into science. But that, of course, means that she had to travel, and she travels a lot.
In 1975 to 1979, she obtained her PhD in microbiology and immunology in the University of Montreal, Canada.
We came back in 1978, and since 1978, I've been teaching gynecology and obstetrics till today. And my wife has been what you know of her.
So when we finished and came back here, got admitted to taken to the University of Yaoundé 1 as an assistant. That was in assistant lecturer in 1985. And so I went now from the ranks of assistant lecturer to associate professor to professor, and now I am emeritus professor, University of Yaoundé 1.
And when they say Professor Leke, everybody thinks about my wife because she's the most known, renowned Professor Leke Rose.
While at the university, I was head of department at the Faculty of Medicine, and I was director of the Biotechnology Center for about 8 years, when I was a professor before I got on retirement.